Hey, Exotical darlings, this is Coco Exotical. Thank you for being here with me. Today, we're going to talk about how their victim mentality is keeping them stuck. So, let me tell you about someone that you probably know. Actually, you probably know several of them. They're always in crisis, always struggling, always one disaster away from rock bottom, and somehow it's never their fault, right? Their boss is toxic, their ex was a narcissist, their family doesn't support them, their friends betrayed them, their coworkers are bullies, the economy is rigged, everybody's racist, everybody's colorist, society is against them, the universe is literally conspiring to keep them down. But the real truth is that they don't actually want to change, right? Being the victim isn't simply their identity, it's their entire life strategy. And if you've ever felt guilty for not helping them, if you've ever felt drained after talking to them, if you've ever wondered why they never take your advice no matter how many times you help them, then this video is going to change how you see them and how you see everything. So today we're going to talk about the victim mentality, why grown adults weaponize it, and why you need to stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about what victim mentality actually is, because it's not the same as actually being victimized by something, right? Real victims exist, real trauma exists, real systemic barriers exist, right? But victim mentality is different. It's a chronic pattern where someone consistently attributes every setback, every failure, every uncomfortable feeling to external forces, and they refuse to take any personal responsibility for changing their own situations. This kind of mentality doesn't just show up overnight as full-blown helplessness. It creeps in through people's everyday language. I can't becomes their favorite phrase, or they're always saying, that's just how it is, or that's just how I am, as if lifestyle or personality is simply set in stone. Or you don't understand what I've been through, as if they're the only ones who've ever experienced struggle or trauma in life, right? They're weaponizing trauma to avoid accountability. Or nothing ever works out for me. So they're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy in their own lives. In psychology, this is called an external locus of control. This is the belief that outside forces are controlling your life instead of your own actions and choices, right? When someone adopts this worldview, everything becomes evidence that the world is against them. Bad day at work, the boss has it out for them. Not the fact that they showed up an hour late 3 times this week. Relationship ended, their ex was toxic. Not the fact that they refused to communicate like an adult or keep true to the promises that they made to their partner. Overweight and unhappy, it's genetics, it's their thyroid, it's PCOS. Not the daily snacking, fast food drive-thrus, and refusal to move their body, right? Unable to save money, it's because of their race or because of the economy, not because they overspent on BS every day and refused to create a monthly budget and stick to it. Blaming other people feels safer than taking responsibility for their own lives like a grown-ass adult. If it's not their fault, then they don't have to change, right? They don't have to look in the mirror. They don't have to do the difficult and uncomfortable work of taking themselves seriously and making changes to improve their own lives. They get to stay exactly where they are, collect sympathy, and avoid the vulnerability that comes with trying and potentially failing at their own goals. Think about it. Taking responsibility can be terrifying, right? It means actually admitting to yourself that you had the power this entire time and you chose not to use it. It means facing the fact that you could have made better choices in life, but you didn't. It means accepting the fact that if you have the power to change your life, then you also have the responsibility to do it. And for some people, that's too much. So they choose to stay stuck and they choose to blame everyone else for their own crappy decision making. Now let's talk about learned helplessness, because this is where psychology really gets interesting, right? So there's a famous study from the 1960s where the psychologist Martin Seligman studied dogs. He put dogs in a situation where they received mild shocks, but they could escape. Later on, when he gave them the ability to actually escape, they didn't even try. They had learned to be helpless, right? And humans do this too, but the difference is that most of the time we're doing it to ourselves. So let me give you a few examples. Maybe you have a friend or a family member who's always complaining about their career. They absolutely hate their job and they've been complaining about it for the past 3 years, right? So you try to be helpful. You send them different job listings, you offer to review their resume, you connect them with people that you know in their industry. They have a degree, they have experience, and they have options, right? But there's always a reason why they can't apply. There's always an excuse. The timing isn't right. They're too tired after work. The application is too complicated. Their internet's acting up. It's their kid's birthday. The kids are sick. They'll do it next month, next year, after the holidays, right? Meanwhile, they spend their lunch breaks scrolling social media. They spend their evenings watching Netflix. They spend their days off rotting in bed or rotting on the couch, and then they wonder why their life isn't improving. They're not actually helpless. They're choosing to be helpless because it's easier than being uncomfortable. It's easier than actually making an effort and potentially failing at it, right? It's easier to blame external circumstances instead of actually trying. I'll give you another example. Maybe you have a friend who keeps on dating the same kind of loser-ass guy. It's the same guy in a different body, right? He's emotionally unavailable, afraid of commitment, and he treats her like garbage. Then eventually he cheats on her, he dumps her, and every time it ends, she's devastated, right? Then she starts whining about, why does this keep on happening to me? Why can I never find a good guy? Then you tell her to go ahead and work on herself and work on her self-esteem before dating again. Go to therapy, figure out why she's attracted to emotionally unavailable men, raise her standards, find some new hobbies, learn how to be happy by herself. But a few weeks later, there she is, dating another version of the same loser, complaining about the same problems and asking for the same advice that she won't take from you, right? Then when you tell her that you don't want to hear her complain about men anymore, then she wants to get mad at you, right? Because the truth is, she's not really looking for a solution. She's looking for validation that she's powerless to change her own situation and her own life circumstances. This is why people like this are always throwing a pity party. They're always asking, why me? Why does this always happen to me? Why am I so unlucky? Why can't I catch a break? This is the kind of self-pity and self-depreciation that fuels the victim mentality, right? And it's insidious because it feels like self-reflection, but it's actually the opposite. Real self-reflection asks, what patterns do I keep on repeating? What's my role in this? What can I do differently? Victim mentality asks, why is the world unfair? Who can I blame? How can I get sympathy out of this? One set of questions leads to growth, while the other leads to stagnation wrapped in self-righteousness. When you believe that you're powerless, then you stop making proactive choices, but you're creative with the excuses, right? You can't save money and you're in debt because the economy is bad, not because you have Amazon packages at your front door every single day. You can't go back to school because you have kids, while there are people who have kids or working 2 jobs and still find a way to go back to school. You can't lose weight because you work in a kitchen and you have to taste everything. Okay, maybe you have to taste everything, but do you have to swallow everything? Spit it out. Or make sure that you're going to the gym on a regular basis then. You don't apply for the promotion because you're never going to get picked anyway. You don't start the business because plenty of businesses fail anyway. You don't do any exercise because you have asthma, your joints hurt, your entire family's big, so you're never going to lose the weight anyway because it's genetic. Do you hear how pathetic that all sounds? Do you see the victim mentality? There's always an excuse. Everything is always somebody else's fault or something else's fault. They've paralyzed themselves, right? And then they wonder why their lives aren't moving forward. So why do grown adults weaponize the victim mentality? It's because there's benefits to playing the victim, right? So once they discover what those benefits are, then they milk them for everything that they're worth. So here's some so-called benefits of having a victim mentality. You're going to get attention. So in the beginning, everyone's going to rush to comfort you, check in on you, prioritize you, baby you, until they get tired of your whining and complaining about the same situations. And then eventually they stop wanting to be around you anymore. People are also going to lower their expectations of you. No one's going to expect you to do anything for them because you're always going through it, right? So you're going to be the one to get help from other people, but people aren't really going to ask you for anything much. That is, until they start to realize that you're an energy vampire, right? And then they start to realize that you're always taking, but you're never giving anything back. People are exhausting themselves trying to fix you, trying to help you, and trying to save you. So eventually they're going to stop wanting to deal with you anymore because you're just draining, right? You also get to avoid responsibility. Everything is always somebody else's fault or due to external circumstances. You've been through so much more. Your life sucks more. Your circumstances are worse than everybody else's. Everybody else's life is better than yours, so they don't have anything to complain about, right? If they want to complain or vent about something that's frustrating to them in their own life, then they shouldn't even be complaining, right? Because your life is just so much worse. You've been through so much more than they have, right? Again, do you see how pathetic and exhausting it is? But for some people, this is exactly the kind of life that they want, right? They don't want solutions. They want an audience. They want attention. They want pity. They want something or someone else to blame for their own crappy circumstances. People like this love to follow what I'll call the emotional manipulation playbook, right? So let me tell you how they operate. First, they start complaining to you about all of their problems. Life is so hard for me right now. I don't know what to do anymore. So you feel bad for them. Then you drop everything to strategize and try to help them out. When you follow up with them the next day or the next week, they haven't done anything that you spent hours trying to plan out. Then they try to guilt trip you. You get tired of them complaining and never doing anything to change their circumstances, so you set a boundary. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, well, I guess you abandoned me now. I thought you cared about me. I guess I was wrong about you, so I'll just handle it by myself like I always do. Then they try to compare themselves to you. Oh, well, at least you have such and such job or such and such partner or money or privilege. You don't know what it's like to struggle the way that I do. So they're dismissing your experiences to shine a light on their own self-created struggles, right? Then sometimes they actually start doing better for themselves, but they find a way to mess it up. They make progress, then they sabotage it, because if they actually got better, then they'd lose their victim identity and their support system, right? So this is why when you recognize these kinds of people and their victim-like patterns, you shouldn't feel sorry for them. People like this rarely ever change because they secretly enjoy playing the victim, right? They enjoy not taking accountability for their own lives. When someone's actively choosing helplessness, refuses to take any advice, rejects every solution, and drains your energy with the same problems on repeat, you're not helping them by continuing to play their game. You're actually making it worse, because every time you rush in to save them, you reinforce that their strategy works, right? You prove that staying helpless gets them what they want: your time, your energy, your resources, and your emotional labor. These people are emotional parasites. They're energy vampires, right? They don't want mutual relationships. They want one-sided extractions. They want to dump their problems on you, drain your energy, take your advice without using it, and then move on to the next person when you're all tapped out. And the craziest part is that they'll resent you and make you out to be the villain the second that you recognize their game and you stop helping them, right? Think about the people in your life who fit this pattern. How much energy have you given them? How many hours? How much emotional bandwidth? How many times have you rearranged your life for their crisis? Now ask yourself, what have they done for you? When you needed help, could you rely on them? Were they there for you? Or is this a one-way street? Yeah, that's what I thought. So here's what you do when you identify a professional victim in your life. First, you need to stop offering them solutions. Seriously, just stop, because they don't want those solutions anyways, right? When they complain, respond with, "Wow, that sounds like a difficult situation." Or, "What do you think you're going to do about that?" Notice how the energy shifts when you're not doing their emotional labor for them, right? Then you're going to set your own boundaries, and don't apologize for setting those boundaries. Tell them, "I'm not available after 9 p.m. Or, "I'm not equipped to be your therapist. Have you considered seeing a professional?" Or, "I've noticed we've only been talking about your problems lately. I need our friendship to be more balanced and diverse," right? They're going to call you selfish. They're going to say that you're abandoning them. Let them say all of that. Their manipulation tactics only work if you feel guilty about it, right? Then you're going to redirect them. When they say, "I can't," ask, "Well, what would it look like if you could?" When they say it's impossible, say, "What would be the first step if it wasn't impossible?" You're not being mean. You're simply refusing to help participate in their helplessness. Then you need to limit your exposure to these people. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your energy. Reduce the amount of time that you're around people like this. Keep the conversation short and decline the invitations to their pity parties. Protect your peace and your mental health, right? Stay focused on yourself. When they try to double down and pull you down into their drama, use that time to focus on your own goals. They want your time, use that time to work on your business. They want your emotional energy, channel it into your fitness routine. They want your attention, give it to people who actually reciprocate and actually appreciate you, right? The best response to an energy vampire is to become so focused on your own growth that you're unavailable for their nonsense. Some people aren't ready to be helped, and that's not your problem. You can't want more for them than they want for themselves. You can't force them to take responsibility for their own lives. You can't love them into accountability. All you can do is protect your own energy and invest it into the people who are actually doing the work to grow and change, right? Stepping away from people who refuse to help themselves doesn't mean it's self-preservation. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep somebody else warm, especially when they're the ones who keep on lighting the match. Their victim mentality is what's keeping them stuck, so don't let it keep you stuck too. You can care about somebody and still refuse to participate in their self-destruction. You can have compassion and still protect your peace. You can wish them well from a distance, right? You don't need to get caught up in their drama. Your energy is one of the most valuable resources, so invest it wisely. Invest it in yourself. Invest it in the people who are actually trying to improve, and let the professional victims find somebody else to drain. So tell me about it. Have you ever dealt with people in your life who are professional victims and refuse to even try to do better for themselves? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.